So today, in my opinion segment, WCW ECW Invasion, WWE's biggest storyline fumble in history. Picture this. It's 2001. WWE has just purchased WCW and ECW, ending the Monday Night Wars and cementing Vince McMahon's dominance in the wrestling world. Fans everywhere were buzzing with excitement. This was the dream scenario. Two rival companies under one roof. The possibilities were endless. Goldberg versus Austin. Sting versus The Rock. Dream matches that could define an era. Now, let's not forget, ECW, it wasn't originally part of WWE. It was its own hardcore wrestling company under the ownership of Paul Heyman. Vince McMahon had been quietly helping ECW financially for years, and eventually he bought it outright. So when the Invasion storyline kicked off, WWE wasn't just absorbing WCW, it was also folding ECW into the mix, creating what should have been the ultimate inter-promotional war. The Invasion was supposed to be the ultimate payoff, a war between WWE and the alliance of WCW and ECW, but what we got, let's just say, didn't live up to the hype. On paper, the concept was pure gold. WCW and ECW unite to take down WWE. Fans imagined a true invasion, outsiders storming the gates, shocking betrayals, and dream matches that would define an era. The storyline had the potential to be the biggest wrestling angle of all time. But here's the reality. WWE did have the star power to make the vision happen. The biggest WCW names, Goldberg, Sting, Hogan, Nash, Flair, were still under lucrative Time Warner contracts. They were getting paid to sit at home. And WWE wasn't willing to buy out those deals. So instead of a roster stacked with legends, the WCW side was represented by mid-card talent like Lance Storm, Mike Awesome, Shawn Stasiak, with Booker T and Diamond Dallas Page as the biggest names. ECW brought its own flavor of hardcore wrestling, but again, most of its top stars were either retired or unavailable. So the alliance lacked the credibility to feel like a real threat. And then came the creative decision that completely changed the tone. WWE stars leading the alliance. Stone Cold Steve Austin, a WWE icon, defected and became the face of WCW ECW. Kurt Angle joined the mix. Suddenly the storyline wasn't WWE versus WCW ECW. It was WWE versus WWE. The storyline, the Invasion angle, lost its identity and became an internal power struggle. To make matters worse, WCW was portrayed as inferior from the start. Their first match on TV, Booker T versus Buff Bagwell, a bout so poorly received that it killed any momentum. WCW had, instead of building WCW as a legitimate rival, WWE buried them under its own narrative right from the bat. So what started as a dream scenario quickly turned into a watered-down version of what fans wanted. The hype was there, but the execution? Not even close. Now let's dig into the real reasons why the Invasion storyline is considered one of WWE's biggest creative failures. These weren't just minor mistakes, they were decisions that completely derailed what could have been a historic angle. First off, the lack of star power. The first and most obvious problem, the absence of WWE's biggest names. Fans wanted Goldberg, Sting, Hogan, Nash, Flair, icons who defined WCW. Instead, we got mid-carders and a handful of recognizable faces like Booker T and DDP. Without those marquee names, the Invasion never felt like a true threat. It felt like WWE was fighting its developmental territory, not its greatest rival. Two, the identity crisis of the alliance. The concept was WCW and ECW versus WWE. Simple, right? But WWE muddied the waters by putting its own stars, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Kurt Angle, at the forefront of the alliance. Suddenly, the story wasn't about outsiders invading, it was about WWE talent turning on WWE. That shift killed the sense of danger and made the angle feel like just another internal feud. Point three, burying WCW from day one. From the very first WCW match on TV, on WWE TV, the writing was on the wall. Instead of building momentum, WWE doubled down on making WCW look weak. WCW titles were treated as second rate, and their wrestlers were booked to lose repeatedly. How can fans buy into an invasion when the invaders look like jobbers? 4. Rushed storytelling. The invasion angle lasted only 5 months, ending abruptly at Survivor Series 2001. That's way too short for a storyline of this magnitude. WWE could have stretched this out for a year, slowly introducing big WCW names as their contracts expired, building tension and creating dream matches. Instead, they blew right through everything in record time, leaving fans unsatisfied. And my take on that, it's all because of Vince McMahon's ego. 5. Missed character arcs. Think about the potential. WCW loyalists fighting for survival. ECW extremists bringing chaos. WWE stars defending their turf. Instead, we got confusing heel face turns and alliances that made no sense. Austin's defection felt forced. DDP was buried in the stalker gimmick. Talents who could have been elevated, like Rob Van Dam, were overshadowed by WWE's obsession with its own main eventers. The fallout? WCW and ECW were absorbed without fanfare, and the invasion angle became a cautionary tale. WWE missed the chance to create new megastars and instead reinforced the idea that only WWE talent mattered. To this day, fans look back and wonder, what if they had done it right? This is where the heartbreak really sets in. The invasion angle had the potential to deliver some of the most iconic matches in wrestling history. Matches fans had been fantasizing about for years. But instead of giving us those dream encounters, WWE rushed a storyline and left us with a handful of forgettable bouts. Dream matches that never happened. Stone Cold versus Goldberg. two of the most dominant forces of the Attitude Era and the Monday Night Wars. Fans wanted this clash of titans, but it never happened during the Invasion. The Rock versus Sting, the People's Champion against WCW's franchise player. This could have been a WrestleMania main event, but Sting stayed home under his WCW contract. Undertaker versus DDP. Instead of a stalker gimmick that buried DDP, imagine a serious rivalry between the Dead Man and WCW's People's Champion. Triple H versus Booker T in a true WCW versus WWE showdown. Booker T was one of the WCW's biggest stars, but he never got the spotlight he deserved during the Invasion. Rob Van Dam versus Chris Jericho in an ECW versus WWE technical masterpiece. RVD was red hot during the Invasion, but he was never positioned as the face of ECW. A proper feud with Jericho could have elevated him further. So how could WWE have done it better? Here are some scenarios that could have saved the Invasion storyline. Stretch the Invasion over a year. Start small with mid-card WCW talent, then gradually introduce the big names as their contract expires. Build anticipation for Goldberg, Sting, Hogan entering the fray. Keep WWE stars out of the alliance. The alliance should have been WCW and ECW loyalists only. No Austin, no Angle. That would have kept the storyline pure and believable. Make WCW look strong. Book WCW to win early. Give them credibility. Let Booker T and DDP score big victories over WWE main eventers to establish the threat. They could have made a brand split sooner. Instead of killing WCW, make it a separate show with its own identity. A true interpromotional war could have lasted years, culminating in a massive WrestleMania showdown. Elevate new stars. Use the Invasion to create new megastars. RVD, Booker T, and others could have been positioned as main event players instead of being overshadowed by WWE's existing roster. In short, WWE had the chessboard set up for greatness, but they played checkers instead. So what are the lessons from WWE's biggest miss? So was the WCW ECW Invasion doomed from the start? In some ways, yes. The contractual issues with WCW's biggest stars were a massive hurdle. Without Goldberg, Sting, Hogan, Flair, WWE couldn't deliver the fantasy booking fans dreamed of. But here's the truth. Even with those limitations, WWE still had enough talent and creative flexibility to make this storyline work. The real failure wasn't the roster. It was the execution. They had the perfect storm. The end of the Monday Night Wars, the acquisition of two rival companies, and a fan base hungry for something epic. Instead of capitalizing on that momentum, They rushed the angle, buried WCW and ECW from day one, and turned the invasion into an internal WWE feud. It became about Vince McMahon versus Shane and Stephanie, not WWE versus WCW, ECW. That shift killed the magic. The invasion should have been at least a year-long saga. It could have been a 2, 3, 4, 5-year thing. If they really put the effort on it, it could have been at least 1, 2, 3 years. Easily. A slow burn that built anticipation, introducing big names gradually, and give WCW and ECW credibility. It should have created new megastars, not reinforced the same old hierarchy. Instead of ending it in 5 months with Survivor Series 2001, leaving fans with one of the biggest what-ifs in wrestling history. So what can today's wrestling promotions learn from this? 3 big takeaways. Star power matters, but storytelling matters more. Even if you don't have every big name, you can still create compelling narratives by elevating the talent you do have. Don't rush the payoff. Epic storylines need time to breathe. A slow build creates anticipation and makes the payoff unforgettable. Protect the identity of your angle. If it's an invasion, make it feel like an invasion. Keep the lines clear. Don't dilute the concept with unnecessary swerves. The WCW ECW Invasion remains a cautionary tale, a storyline that had everything going for it but collapsed under poor creative decisions. It's a reminder that in wrestling, hype is easy, execution is everything. What do you think? Was the Invasion's WWE's biggest missed opportunity, or was it doomed from the start?